Attention, please. It's now 7 o'clock. I'd like to call this Bridgewater Town Council meeting to order. Could everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, everyone. And just to remind those at home, the Town Council meeting is being streamed live via YouTube. Please go to the Town of Bridgewater Facebook page for the link to the YouTube. But again, thanks everyone for coming. To start off with, I do not have any veterans condolences to share, but I do have a recent one of a longtime member in town I'd like to mention. David Wolahojian, a lifelong resident of Bridgewater, passed away recently on September 6th. He was very involved in the community. He was vice president of Bridgewater Youth Soccer, chairman of the Conant Community Health Center, and treasurer of the Bridgewater Rainham Citizen Scholarship Foundation, and many other areas of interest and volunteerism that he did over the years. So I want to extend condolences to David's family. I also would like to have a moment of silence on his behalf, and also being that it's 9/11 Eve, to all those that were lost in some way relationship to 9/11, directly, indirectly, friends, family members, loved ones. Can I please have a moment of silence? Thank you. All right, so to start off, we'll look to approve minutes from previous meetings. For the August 7th meeting minutes, can I have a motion for approval?
So moved. Second.
And a second by Mr. McKinnon, initial by Mr. Chase. Any further discussion on those minutes? And this can be done by voice vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And also for the meeting minutes of the August 13th meeting, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr.
Second.
McKinnon, second by Mr. Striggles. Any further discussion? All those who are in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. I do not have any direct announcements from the president's seat at this point in time. I do not have any proclamations, so we will move to Citizens Open Forum. Due to Massachusetts open meeting law requirements, discussions will not take place during public comment period. If appropriate, responses to questions and concerns will be given by the town manager at a future town council meeting. I would ask anyone coming up to please state your name and address for the record, and please keep it to 3 minutes or less. Would anybody like to come up and speak for Citizens Open Forum?
Ray Ajemian, Aldridge Road. I can't seem to get away from this place. 3 things, and I apologize ahead of time if I misinterpreted what I read, so forth. First of all, on August 13th, in your last meeting in August, I spoke regarding the changes that the town manager had proposed for the town code, which would allow the tree committee to bring on board a arborist or a certified arborist if we could not find somebody in town. I noticed the Rules and Procedures Committee met yesterday, and that was not on the agenda. I just want to encourage you to move in that direction, because it's incumbent on us that we have an expert on the tree committee to make sure that we are doing the right thing. So I just encourage you again. Secondly, just off topic, I noticed that you're taking up change in central business district and density bonuses. I was on the planning board when the Broad Street project came before the planning board roughly 3 years ago. And density bonus, I thought, was, I had problems with it, and we had a difficult period. I noticed, if I read it correctly, the density, the required number of residential units per acre by zoning is 18, and the density bonus allowed up to 26. Your new proposal, if I read it correctly, is to change 26 to 22. I think it's a good idea. I think the density bonus has its issues, and to keep the number of residential units per acre lower is good. So I just encourage you to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Anybody else, please come up.
Good evening, councilors. I'm Jonathan Algarin, 19 Heather Lane in Bridgewater. I'm also the chairman of the Bridgewater Veterans Council. I come before you tonight to request the town raise the POW MIA flag. During a ceremony that we will hold on September 20th in honor of National POW MIA Recognition Day, I ask the flag be flown at Town Hall as a reminder of the ultimate sacrifice by members of our military. Prisoners of war experience unspeakable torture following their capture. Some service members never come home and never return to their family wonder where they are to this day. The loved ones are left without even having the peace of mind of knowing where the loved ones' bodies are. The one small comfort that we can offer is that we show that we remember them and honor their sacrifice by raising the POW MIA flag at the Bridgewater Town Hall. We recognize that these veterans and their loved ones have gone through what they have gone through, and we honor their willingness to give everything in name of service. The town of Bridgewater's recognition of National POW MIA Recognition Day shows the town's more than 1,700 veterans, their families, and the entire community that we honor those who served and sacrificed. I respectfully ask for you, on behalf of myself, the Bridgewater Veterans Council, members of the community, to raise the POW MIA flag as a symbol of our town's support for POWs, soldiers who are still missing in action, and the entire veteran community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, please come up. Janet?
Good evening, Janet Hanson, Pleasant Street. I don't have much to say, just on what's tonight about the ordinance 0FY 25009. I still want to go on record that I feel that we should have more than a total of 5 people. It doesn't have to be, a huge number, but I think we could go more than 5. I attended the Rules and Procedure meeting last night. Was it last night? And I liked the amendments that were added. I thought those were good on both the ordinance and the Mr. Murphy had good ideas, and I had no objection to that. The only thing I have objection to is the number. And the other thing is, I didn't know about the density thing. I just, reading it, so I haven't had a chance to really fully understand it. But I don't agree with density bonuses myself. This is what is allowed. That's what allowed. I don't think you should, get a bonus because you're, going to do something for the town. Because I think if you're going to do that, then lower what the amount is to start with and put it up to what you want. If 18 is what we want, then put it at 16 and give them a bonus of 18 type thing. I think that's too many. So I'm waiting to see what, I don't fully understand everything that's saying in here, so I'd like to have a lot of detail as to what is going on that. So I'm waiting to hear what that says. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Anybody else?
I'm Kitty Doherty, Conant Street. You have something very exciting on your agenda this evening. You know how long it takes for an elephant to have a baby? 22 months. You know how many elephants we could have had in the length of time that it took for that old State Farm Trail to get through the state planning process to the point where we are now? It's exciting. I hope that you all vote in favor, because what this is the conservation easement that the town is voting to accept. When we started first discussion on this old State Farm Trail possibility, it was 14 years ago, and we were down at the landing where the canoes are on the town river, and at that point, the dilemma was, It's DOC land, and it's Article 97 land, and no one really knew how to approach it. And then all of a sudden, 5 years ago, different things changed, and all of a sudden, we were able to get this onto the legislature's calendar and through, and here we are today, and it's awesome. It's so good with what we've been doing with our natural trail system and our connected trails, like Ironworks and then Stiles and Hart, and then we have Carver's Pond and the other trails, that with this particular trail, the Old State Farm Trail, abutting the wild and scenic Taunton River, it caused the National Park Foundation to contact us and said, we want you to apply for this particular grant. And in 5 weeks, they had sent us the money. That's a national thing that is now aware of what we're doing in this community and say in the three Bridgewaters for our connected land and water trail system. So it's awesome possibilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Anybody else like to come up and speak? Going once, going twice. Okay. Thank you for those that came up. Moving on to appointments, we have none this evening. We do not have any hearings as well. Licensed transactions, we have none. Presentations, not this meeting, but next meeting we will have some. That brings us to our town manager's report, and for our newly approved interim town manager, it will be her first town manager's report for us, so I'll turn it over to Blythe Robinson. Blythe?
Thank you, Mr. President. 2 items to talk about tonight. The first is an update on the fire station. I'm sure you've all driven past the site on Pleasant Street, Route 104, and you can see that site work has begun. So that's going well so far. All the contractors are there doing what they need to do, and the team who are managing the project, led by Mr. Rulli, are meeting every Wednesday to work on all of those details, and that's going well too. Also, we had the bond sale for the financing to pay for it last week. Those were opened on September 5th. The total budget for this project is just under $26 million, $25,962,615, in case anyone's counting, for which we sold bonds of $23 million. We received 8 bids for those and got a net interest rate of just over 3.67%, which is in line with what the financial projections were. We're actually only borrowing $21,880,000 because the town received a premium, lowering the amount that actually has to be taken. So good news on all of that. The fact that we had 8 bids and maintained our credit rating is excellent news for the town as well. The difference in how much we need between the amount I cited for the budget and the borrowing is being made up from ARPA funds, but you probably already knew that from past discussions. Also wanted to let you know that we are planning on having a groundbreaking, thinking about sometime in the period of October 15th to 22nd, as we get the site a little more prepared and safe for people to be on it. We will work with you to set up a date. I'm not sure if all of you want to come. Some of you, it's a big deal for the town, so we will keep you in the loop of what we're thinking about and coordinate that accordingly.
Great. Any questions on that? Mr. Lindy?
Thank you for the update. Appreciate it. I'm just curious to know how involved the Fire Station Building Committee is in the project.
The committee, I don't think they have been at this point. Now that the project is planned and approved, it's being managed by Mr. Rulli along with the OPM, the contractor, and other staff such as the finance director.
Just one more follow-up to that. Understanding that, I served on the school building committee for the Mitchell, and our committee met for close to 75 meetings. I'm just thinking there's a committee, and I kind of think they should be utilized.
I very much understand. I can tell you what I've heard, what I've learned is that in Bridgewater, when town projects get to this point, they are managed internally and not having a building committee meet on that. That's what I understand is historically happened, but I understand your point.
Just to address that question too, yeah, I mean, the committee for the fire station is working a little bit differently than the school type committee. That's what I also learned, but I do think the chair, Mr. Russian, is still involved in some areas. Ms. Robinson.
Oh, I was just going to ask a follow-up question of how big is the committee, and is it actually full?
I believe it was a full committee, and again, they did a lot of the pre-work up to the construction period. Any other questions?
Nope.
Did you have one? Okay. All right.
Before we move on, though.
Well, you had I didn't know if that was a
Yeah,
hand or not.
No, before we do
Mr.
move
McKinnon.
on, though, I do just want to request one thing. So during the town manager meetings with Mike, I'd always joke around, I have a list, and I do have a list, but since we only have one meeting, I'm just going to request for one thing on the next town manager report, and that's just the tire dump that is on Water Street and near BSU. To run you up to speed, there's about 5,000 tires in the middle of the woods, and where we last talked, the town engineer was looking at whose property it was on, if it was a college, if it was his property, the property owner, but butting a college, just with all the mosquito issues,
Sure.
Tripoli, and, I mean, Middleborough even has a curfew now, too. I mean, I see that as a big concern in town. I mean, we made an ordinance so tire dumps can't happen anymore, and that they need to be cleaned up around them, but
Okay.
I still, with all the Tripoli problems around, I see that as a public health issue.
Understood. Can you remind me of the general address?
So it's on Water Street.
On Water Street, okay?
Yeah, Mr. Tanzi, I believe, was looking at that.
Great.
So if you talk to him, he might be able to give you some more information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I'll let you finish your second part of your report, and if any other councils have any other requests, we'll put that
Sure.
at the end of that.
So the second item I wanted to cover is a follow-up to a question at a recent meeting about my strategy with working with boards, committees, and commissions. And my strategy, I think, is very simple, which is to support them. I would say, though, that I'm impressed that Bridgewater took a decision sometime in the past to have a staff person dedicated to that. That's not typical, and I think it was a terrific step to make sure that volunteers have some support, primarily in either Josh McGraw in our office for a number of the committees, as well as the CED department staffs, the committees that work with them, planning, zoning, conservation, and such. So out of the gate, I think that needs to continue, that those chairs have a resource and someone to post their meetings, help with their minutes, follow up on details that are needed. But besides that, I think through myself, with support of others, providing finance department help with any financial questions that come up, or if there's an issue that might touch planning and zoning, Mr. Rulli's team would be involved, and I would work to pull them together to make sure that the questions are answered, the resources that are needed get to those committees. I also understand that it's been the practice to support some committees by the manager or the assistant more directly, for instance, the CPC committee. And Josh and I have a meeting with the chair of that and vice chair later this week to prep for their next meeting. And would continue to help them. You know, in my capacity, I'm not sure I will make it to every single meeting, but my goal is to make it to the meetings I need to be at, and if it's open space one month or, someone else another, we'll work that out. And then besides that, I think there's also the question of openings on committees and how we handle those. I think we need to take those more on a case-by-case basis. If there is a committee that can't function because they don't have a quorum, then taking up a recommendation to you for an appointment would make sense, so the business of that committee can continue in the interim. But for the long term, I think it would be best for a new permanent manager to make some of those decisions. And so as we go through the next few months, I think we need to just keep our eye on that and make appropriate decisions for what's best for the committee and for the town. And I'm happy to support that.
Great. Thank you, Blythe. Any other questions to the town manager?
Just on that, if we do get appointments forwarded to us, I had asked the previous town manager if we could get, after it goes to Citizens Advisory Committee, could we see the resume for the people that we're voting on?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Ms. McGrath?
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the town manager. Hi, Mrs. Robinson. I have two questions. I saw that in Wellesley you negotiated a ground lease of town-owned land with a developer to build a recreation facility. Do you think you can help Bridgewater initiate such a plan? And the other thing, in Upton, when you worked in Upton, you managed the renovation of a historical town hall, which we have here. So could you help Bridgewater get a plan on that and explain how you funded those projects? I know it's a lot, but if you could just get us started, would be helpful.
Well, I think both are very long-term projects, and like those, I mean, the one that Wellesley undertook had started before I got there, and they bought some land from the diocese, from the closed Catholic Church, put out an RFP, sought developers for that property, and then it was a long negotiation to figure out how that would work. It's certainly possible, but it's something that, maybe if there's an opportunity, we can start it, but I would honestly be handing it off to the next manager because it will take many, many months to complete. With the town hall in Upton, that project was funded solely almost completely by CPC funds. The town had took a decision to save up its funds from historic preservation for years, and enough to the point where the money that was already on hand and coming in could pay for the debt to renovate that building, with the exception being things that aren't CPC eligible. So those things can happen, but they take time and a plan that we want to do this project and we're going to prepare financially or whatever the need is to be able to accomplish it. So we can start, but...
That would be appreciated.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other councilors, any other questions? Ms. Ellenberg?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of questions, like as a follow-up. I know there was an issue about whether town insurance would cover volunteers, and I know that it was asked. Has the insurance policy rider been checked? And may I ask what you found?
Are we deferring these for the next meeting?
I would say,
to
yeah, this would be a
post?
request to
I
bring it
certainly
to-
think we can address that
Yeah.
at the next meeting. We have talked to Maya, who's our insurance carrier, and we have all the exclusions from coverage.
Okay.
So we had a meeting, we followed through on exactly what we said we were going to do, and we can easily report that at the
So we'll
next
put
meeting.
that on the next town manager's report.
I have a few more questions, Mr. President.
Well, I would just, if they're not exactly related to what's on the
To
report
those
for this
things?
evening, I would just make them as requests for the next meeting.
Okay, and then the last question is, as to committees, we are discussing committees, so I will forego other questions. How do you feel about jurisdictional issues in terms of council appointments versus town manager appointments? I know you said long-term, but can you elaborate on that, please?
Next meeting.
Well, again, it's regarding this.
So is that the question for the next
No, I believe,
agenda?
well, she's asking a question regarding to the boards
Oh,
and
okay.
commissions right now she's mentioned it on. So if she wants to comment on her philosophy on
My
that.
comment would be that I think we look at each individual situation that comes up with a committee, whether it's an appointment by the manager or appointment by the council, what does that committee need to be functional in the short term? If it's a manager appointment, it needs to be functional. I'm going to do my best to make with me, the Citizens Committee, make a good decision about filling it. And if it's for a committee that the council would ultimately ratify, I would bring it to you and let the council decide.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ellenberg. Any other councilors before we wrap it up? All right, thank you very much. Moving on to J, we do not have any discussion items on the agenda for tonight. I will move to committee reports. I know a couple subcommittees did meet. Mr. Chase, did you have an update that you'd like to bring?
Thank you, Mr. President. It's already been alluded by public comment. You may know this, but the Rules and Procedures Committee did meet last evening to consider the order and ordinance that are both immediately following on our agenda this evening. And the committee was present, all three members of the committee. And with respect to both the order and the ordinance, each measure was approved with a recommendation for approval by the council as amended. We made some very modest amendments, copies of which have been given to the council members this evening. And we did, in fact, make a positive recommendation for approval by the council.
Okay, and we can go over those amendments when we go over each, the order and the ordinance. That's fine. Thank you, Mr. Chase. Any other subcommittees have any reports to report? I don't think anybody else.
Just that
Go ahead.
the Budget and Finance will meet next week at 6:15.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Liddy. All righty. So moving on to L, legislation for action. The first one up is the Order O FY 25-009, Town Manager Search Preliminary Screening Ad Hoc Committee selection. So as Mr. Chase just pointed out, Rules and Procedures voted 3-0 to approve as amended. I will ask for a motion to approve as amended and a second for discussion afterward. I have
Second for discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Eagles, and a second by Mr. McKinnon for discussion. I would go back to Mr. Chase if you'd like to elaborate on the amendments that were made.
Yes, the amendments were put forward by Councilor Murphy, who I think, as you recall, did draft the proposed legislation. So with respect to the Ad Hoc Search Committee, this is Order FY 25-009. I can read the language as it appears, as we have approved. And it reads, once established, the preliminary ad hoc committee shall determine the method to acquire candidates. It refers to examples, hire search committee, use MMA, et cetera, to include screening of town manager applicants and providing the town council with the top 3 applicants. Final selection shall be performed by the town council. The amendment that was made was quite minor, actually, but I'll read the amendment as it stands. Said preliminary screening ad hoc committee shall consist of no more than 4 members of the town council and 1 member of the school committee that is a resident of the town, effective through and including the next town election day. So the purpose of the amendment, as was explained by Councilor Murphy last evening in committee, is to conform the length of this ad hoc committee. Our charter does require a specific term for the ad hoc committee, any ad hoc committee to exist, and that had not been provided in the original legislation. So this provides for the cessation of the effectiveness of that ad hoc committee through and including the next town election day. That would be April of 2025.
Okay. And then secondarily, I think at the end, Mr. Chase, there was a change from the top 3 applicants to something at no more than 5 applicants, if you can address that.
Yes. And it further reads, once established, the preliminary ad hoc committee shall determine the method to acquire candidates, to include screening of town manager applicants and providing the town council with no more than 5 applicants. So that was the nature of the amendment, to provide a limitation on the total number of applicants to be presented to the town council for final approval.
Great. All right. Any other?
Is that a motion to amend?
Yeah, we'll have to take a motion to make those amendments and then on the order as well.
I just didn't hear a motion to
Okay.
amend.
So based on those amendments, can I get a motion to amend?
Point of order, please.
Yes, Ms. Ellenberg?
This is not going to be popular, but I understand there was a screw-up with the Zoom last night. Is that true?
No, Zoom was working. I
We
think
had
just a couple of
residents in there.
individual people had
Because
tough reach.
the original sign-up presume was incorrect. If that is so, then the public was not able.
Public was
They
present
were
at the
in there.
meeting.
There were 2 public members in there. There were. I'm on rules and procedures. There were 2 members of the public in there.
If I could
Yes.
clarify, Mr. President?
Thank you. I'll
I can
refer to Mr.
respond
Chase.
that. Originally, the meeting that was conducted last night by the Rules and Procedures Committee had been scheduled for last Thursday evening. And in fact, the council members, the committee members, I should say, were able to log on, and we were prepared to open the meeting, but it was discovered that residents were not able to use the link that had been provided on the town website. There was no way for us to contact the general public to say, this is an appropriate link, try this link instead. And so it was actually a discussion that before we began the meeting, while the council members committee members were present, we indicated that our agreement that it's not fair that the public cannot attend this meeting, much as we regret the need to reschedule. That's what we chose to do. And so immediately our town council clerk prepared the meeting notice for what was last night's meeting, and we thought it's only fair that the public have an opportunity to attend. Now, last night, I know that, for example, one council member was able to attend as a member
Citizen?
of the public. That's correct. And also there was one other member of the public who did attend, who was actually with us here this evening.
That is true, but the fact that the Zoom correction was made at the last minute, I believe, as my point of order, has made it necessary to postpone and get the Zoom link correct, maybe 48 hours in advance, so more than 2 people can show up?
Well, while it was absolutely regrettable in each case that there was any difficulty with the communication, nonetheless, the committee did have a quorum last night. The public was admitted, the public was present, and we
Late.
conducted our meeting.
They were admitted
Can I
late.
just procedurally speaking?
Yes.
There still is not a motion to amend, nor has there been a motion to postpone. I think you guys are talking around 2 things.
Right.
I think
Okay.
you need to make motions and debate the motions and
I
discuss the
understand.
motions and
So
vote them.
regarding her point of order, Attorney Rollins, there's really no difficulty in the procedure that the town went through to have that meeting last night, in your opinion?
I don't know what procedure the town went
Oh.
through. I know that it seems to me, based on the information you're providing now, which I've heard for a couple of minutes, there was proper
I don't-
notice. There
okay.
was multiple means of attending the meeting,
Yeah.
either in person or otherwise, so it was what was considered a hybrid meeting. Those are the facts. I haven't heard that there was an open meeting law violation, if that's what you're asking.
No, okay.
So the fact that the Zoom link might have not worked is not an open meeting law violation. Open meeting law is for ensuring that it's published, and if there are multiple means of getting to a meeting, then you have to exercise whatever mean you can.
Well, that's like, I'll address. So, hold on, Ms. Ellenberg. So based on the fact that the meeting was posted, the links did work for both the committee as well as the public, I don't see there being any issue at hand here. Mr. McKinnon, I saw a hand just because you're on the subcommittee.
Again, though, not to interrupt, there have to be motions pending. If
So
you all
just-
want to debate and
all right.
discuss, that's perfectly acceptable.
So before I get
But
to
there has
any
to
other
be a pending
questions then,
motion.
so, I mean, again, I took your point of order, but again, I don't think there's any problem with that situation.
I do believe a point of order would take precedence over the main motion on the floor.
But are you making a motion to postpone?
Yes, I am.
Oh, so that's what I think we need to.
That's what I meant by my point of
Right,
order.
yeah.
I'm sorry if I misspoke.
Yeah, I think you need to make a motion and then see if it's seconded, and then you all can have the
All right.
debate about the motion.
All right, so based on your.
I
I
also
so
didn't-
move.
I didn't also hear a motion to.
Well, it
amend
was a
the
point
motion.
of order, or not a motion that she made, so it wasn't.
Well, it's a
exactly
motion on a point of order.
I think there need to be, from what I've heard, and you all are the council, so I don't run your meeting. But I think what I've heard is there's an allusion to a possible motion to amend that has to be made and has to be seconded and then can be discussed. And then I've also heard there is a motion to postpone that needs to be seconded and then discussed. That's what I've heard.
Correct.
But
Mr. President,
Hold on. Yes, Ms. Ellenberg.
through you to Mr. Rollins, the point of order motion will come first, correct?
yeah, the motion to postpone will come first.
All right.
Thank you.
So do I hear a second
I'll
on?
second for discussion.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion?
I have one.
Go ahead, Mr.
I was
Liddy.
only able to get on the meeting as a citizen because one of my fellow counselors provided me the link. The link that was posted on the agenda had invalid, just for the record.
Okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
for the
But you were
record.
still able to get on?
I did, but it took me,
Okay.
Late.
And another general member of the public I heard was on as well. Mr. McKinnon?
I do just want it to be noted that, yes, that did happen where Mark couldn't get in, and I sent him a link, but also 2 other citizens. There were 3 citizens total in the meeting last night.
How late?
I did not reach out to either, didn't send no link to any of the citizens. They got in their way via the link or via the website. Zoom might just have issues right now, because, I mean, we've had 2 meetings now that have, I think it's actually been 3, that the Zoom links have been being funky with, so I don't think that's anything on our hands, but I will say citizens did get in. We
Did
were
have
going to
the
meet last
opportunity to-
Thursday, but like the chair said, we did not meet because no citizens could get in.
Correct. So again, you guys, I think, made the appropriate thing. Did you have a comment, Mr.?
I was just going to move the question to
Okay,
vote,
okay.
or motion.
All right, and so we have a motion to move the question.
So that requires a 2/3
Vote.
vote.
To
And
move-
first move the question, and that ends all debate.
Yeah.
And you take a vote on the motion.
Thank you. So I have a motion to move the question. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Robinson. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
This is to end debate, correct?
Correct.
This is to move the question.
Okay.
Mr. McKinnon?
Yes?
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Ellenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Dr. Perry?
Yes?
Mr. Lindy?
yes,
Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Ms. Strigels?
Yes.
And Ms. McGrath?
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
So the vote on the table now is a motion to postpone based on the technical difficulties. Is that correct, Ms. Ellenberg?
That is correct.
All right, can by a voice vote here, all those in favor of postponing till a future meeting,
It hasn't been
please?
seconded. Wait a second. I made
It
the
was
motion.
seconded already.
I
This is-
seconded.
Oh,
We're
okay.
moving the vote.
Okay, okay.
So all those in favor of postponing this vote on this order to a future meeting, please signify by saying aye.
All in favor?
All in favor of moving this,
Postpone.
postpone, yes.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay.
Nay.
And the nays have it. So going back to the original motion that was on the floor, we had a first and a second
So
for
now you have to
discussion.
move.
not on the floor.
Yeah, I think Mr. Chase was getting, I
Yeah, we
think-
were still finishing up our
Just-
amendments.
but
Now
I would
we're
start
we're
it
voting
by
on
making the
a motion,
motion.
a motion for the amendments as proposed by Rules and Procedures. Do I have a motion to approve those amendments?
Second.
Ms. Striggles and second by Mr. McKinnon. Any further discussion on the amendments? Ms. McGrath?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just have one through you to the town manager. Mrs. Robinson, I ask that you change the member of the school committee that is a resident to administrator of the school system that is a resident of the town. I spoke with the vice principal of the high school, Mr. Jarrett Lucia. He lives in town, he has children in the Bridgewater school system, and he has experience in the hiring process. He has graciously said yes to serving on this ad hoc committee. This appointment will not only give a voice to residents, but many of our parents. So I hope you consider the change. Thank you.
Mr.
So,
President?
yeah,
would
for
that
just, so Ms. McGrath, are you looking to make a motion to amend?
I don't think I can. Isn't the town manager appoint?
No, we're not dealing with appointments at this point right now. We're just talking about the language of the order right now. So the order itself states right now, one member of the school committee that is a resident of the town of Bridgewater. Are you looking to amend that
I
description
would
at all?
amend it, but I cannot, because by the charter...
Yes, you can.
can.
No, you
Doesn't the
could.
town manager appoint that person?
No, that's a whole different situation. We're not naming any names right now. We're just going with the language of the order and forming an ad hoc committee.
I thought the town manager also, because as far as I know, Mr. Dutton said he chose a member of the school
Yeah,
committee.
we're not dealing with, we're just looking at the language right now of the order, which is saying that the ad hoc committee shall consist of no more than 4 members of the town council and 1 member of the school committee that is
Okay,
a
then I
town
move to
resident.
amend,
What is your amendment?
to change it to a member, administrator of the school system that is a resident of the town.
Second.
Administrator of the town.
No?
Administrator of the
I mean,
school
administrator of the
Of the
school.
school
Of
system.
the school system that
That
is a member of the
resident-
town.
That is a resident of the
Well,
town.
then, that's basically, so instead of school committee, you're saying administrator
Correct.
of the BR school system?
I'm just saying of the school system.
The district.
You
So
can
what
say BR,
All right.
school system, yes.
All right, so you're making a motion for that. Do I have a second on that amendment?
Second.
For discussion, yes. Any discussion on that? Mr. Murphy?
Ms. Grath, I just want to be on record that I wouldn't support that amendment only because the member of the town council, the school committee is an elected person, which I think speaks for the residents as a representation for the committee, and the administrator themselves is a hired position.
Who hires them?
Why is, I would support a member of the school committee because it's an elected official as written by
Right.
the residents of the town. So I feel like that's better representation of what the citizens would want on the committee, as opposed to an administrator who was hired for that role by a member within the
The only
system
problem I
itself.
see with the committee is it's a budget committee. Has no interaction with the students, has no idea what's going on, where the vice principal knows the students and the parents. So he would be a voice for the residents, and that's what a lot of residents want, to at least have a voice, and also for the parents. So he has more connecting with our town than the budget committee.
Sorry.
Okay, Mr. Lindy?
On kind of both the points, just going to go on record stating that I do not believe any of us would be asked to be on the superintendent search committee should a vacancy arise, and therefore I'm not in favor of either of them.
Okay. Any other, Ms. Robinson?
I have a couple of perspectives that may be related to the original proposed motion for amendment as well as this new one. As it pertains to this 1 member of the school committee, there's a couple of things that has struck me as I've reflected in the past few weeks. We are also ideally looking, and I think we heard both from some other council members as well as members of the public, that they are looking for more input and diversity in terms of the voice of the voices represented in the search committee. So that's something that I've been thinking about and making sure that we have enough of that lens, whether it's somebody who is familiar with operating some of our municipal departments to budgeting to school committee, et cetera. The other thing, too, is also I wonder about availability and willingness, which can be challenging if it's a very, very specific role for this 1 additional position in addition to counselors. I did speak directly with 2 school committee members, and while both said, it sounds interesting, and, to potentially be on an ad hoc search committee for a town manager, they could see the justification, but there also came questions around like how much of a time commitment, as much as they would love to support this effort, it could, just increase their volunteering hours as well. So again, that was 2 school committee members that I spoke to personally that I think the spirit was there, but there was definitely some concern around what does that commitment look like. So when I think about this, where I'm kind of coming is, I wonder if we make that additional member. I have not been a fan of increasing beyond 5. Worst case scenario, is it 7 for another odd? I don't recommend 7, but I'm just saying, if at least when we look at this 1 member, should we actually make it a little bit more flexible? So maybe it's an elected role for Bridgewater, whether it's the town clerk or a library trustee or a school committee member. I wonder if there's an opportunity to consider that and which kind of reaches our ability to help diversify a little bit in terms of some of the perspective without pigeonholing, you know, availability or interest or want through a school committee member. Just something to ponder.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Any other comments?
Comment.
Mr.
I was just going to say to piggyback on Ms. Robinson's comment, my ordinance, which follows this one, it strictly just says establish a 5-member screening ad hoc committee. I don't specify in my ordinance. I think for that reason, to allow for flexibility, especially in the future. So I just wanted to note that for when we get to that piece, you'll see that there's nothing specific in that ordinance naming positions or people. So sorry if that was relevant or not relevant, but.
No, I think it is, so I'm glad you dovetail on that, yeah. Which makes it confusing then for this discussion if that one is a little bit more broad.
Well, I think, so just to comment back on that, I think the ordinance that Dr. Perry brought for the 5-member current one is just for this situation, right? And I think that would be my intention when I wrote this, with that an ordinance would be brought, an order would be brought every time we go through this process that would establish that committee in the way that the council sees fit, whatever that may be.
Gotcha.
So I was intending to leave flexibility in that second ordinance.
I think thank you, because I don't even think that was fully landing for me either. So I think that distinction is incredibly important, that this specific ad hoc search committee is for this situation,
Correct.
Whereas the ordinance for the charter change, or amendment, I should say, or addition, right, is more flexible. Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. McGrath, you had another comment you made?
Yes, that's a good point. So since it's just for this one, then I'd like to have the school vice principal. And after this, it will be anybody that we choose, right? But for this one, I would like at least to try to have someone different from the school committee. And he's willing to do it. I've already talked to him about the commitment of the time.
But again, we're not talking about a specific person. We're looking at a general.
But I was just bringing it up because Ms. Robinson said the time and stuff. So I did have a conversation with the individual. So, and I asked if there were many people on the school committee, on the school administration and teachers who lived in town, and I was told there was a lot of them. So even if it's not the vice principal, it would open the door for someone else, even a teacher.
Right. Again, unless there's any questions to redirect to Mr. McGrath, let me comment on the sake that, in writing this, I wrote it for no more than 4 members of the town council, so that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be 4 members of the council. It could be 3 and 1 additional person that could be named. So that I wanted to make that clear. And naming 1 member of the school committee, again, as Councilor Murphy had mentioned, it was an elected position, again, to create a certain, level of, that elected person knowing, especially confidentiality needing to be had specifically in this part of the process with the ad hoc committee and screening names. And again, with the budget being, 2/3, a majority of our town budget, and those potential questions and things could be brought forth at that time. I just felt that a school committee member, seeing the operational aspect of the school and the budget, would be a better fit than potentially an administrator, because again, the BR school committee runs itself. They don't really have interaction with a town manager on their day-to-day activities and how they interact with kids, how they teach their kids, whatever process that they go through. So that in itself, I don't think would be as an important a role as potentially a representative of the school committee. But that's just where I was coming from when I introduced the order. So that being said, any other further questions on her motion? I
would just like to make a comment that I do support Councilor Murphy's making this committee temporary.
It's an ad hoc committee is always temporary. It's not anything that goes forward. This order would address what we're trying to do now in a current search for the town manager.
I served on an ad hoc committee about 25 years ago, and it went on from year to year.
This will not.
Okay.
This is why we did the other, which we'll get back to after we take care of Ms. McGrath's amendment. So on Ms. McGrath's amendment on changing the member of the school committee to an administrator, by voice vote, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay.
Nay.
So unfortunately, that motion does not carry. going back to the original motion.
Mr. President, just quickly, just for clarification, it reads consist of no more than 4 members of the town council and 1 member of the school committee. Are you saying no more than 4 and no more than 1? So is no more actually twice there or once? Because I could envision a scenario if I think this just came up, if the school committee member says, or members that are approached for appointment say, I don't want to do that. That puts you in a precarious situation where you can't fill a position that's required to be filled. So just thinking ahead, it's just not clear. It's semantics, but I did hear that come up tonight. So you may want to clarify that, just so that issue doesn't come up in the future.
So what are you suggesting changing?
I'm not suggesting, it's up to you all, but if you're talking semantics, it seems to read that it should consist of no more than 4 members of the town council and 1 member of the school committee. I would read that as it means no more than 4 town councilors and no more than 1 school committee member, right? But you may want to just add no more than one school twice in some fashion so that it's very clear and there is no ambiguity in the future of if every school committee member that's asked to do this or appointed to do this declines, then you don't want to be right back at the drawing board. That's all.
Okay, I appreciate that. So we'll make the additional amendment to add the words no more than prior to the 1 member of the school committee that is resident of the town. I'll make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Chase. Any further discussion on that edit?
Do we need
Ms. Robinson?
Do we need to withdraw a motion right now?
What's that?
I feel like we're behind on a motion. Don't we need to withdraw one?
You have the initial one of Mr. Chase's motion to amend, but you're
we're coming back to that.
Adding on.
We're
I was
coming
just
back,
making sure we were doing. I was
those-
just making sure we were doing the process.
Yeah, you're
right.
voting just subsidiary amendments right now.
So, I can make that as an addendum to the initial 2 that were being proposed by the rules of procedure, instead of keeping it separate. Ms. Robinson?
So just to tie off, so worst case scenario, say a school committee member really is unavailable, so then what is the contingency plan? Because if the language says no more than 4 counselors, then it means, and we don't have a school committee member that would be willing, then we have an even number.
Yeah, no, I believe, I have some confidence that there'll definitely be a person that will volunteer from the school committee, so.
So for transparency, though, it is the town manager's appointment, and in the event that
No,
somebody wasn't-
I've talked to a couple people, so, there's options there. So, again, that will be the town manager's appointment as of the next meeting, so.
I'm just trying to make it real clear for
Yeah, I
everybody.
understand, I understand.
So, okay.
So, any other questions?
Is there a motion that was seconded to add no more?
I believe I did get that,
You
didn't I,
did.
for discussion?
I
I
did
made
get
the
this.
motion, Mr. Chase
Seconded it.
yes.
Okay.
Yes. And we're just having any further discussion on any more amendments. Mr. McKinney, do you have a comment?
Nope, nothing from me.
Okay.
Just to be clear, to follow up on Councilor Robinson's comment, if there isn't a school committee member that could sit on this board, we would then come back and have to rewrite this order.
But then, yes, I would say that would probably.
No, not if you're adding that language, right?
No
Right,
more
because
than.
we're saying we could operate with 4.
Right. That's why I'm saying.
Oh, I
in
see what
order to
Yeah, that's what I was
prevent
getting
that.
at.
Right.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay, I see what you're saying.
My suggestion to you
Thank
was
you for
to
mansplaining it
I think that was a, thank you. No,
that-
I understand, I understand
The
that.
reason for the suggestion was so that you all don't.
We're not
have-
locked into that, yes,
Right.
okay, I understand. I follow you now with Ms. Robinson. Thank you for clarification.
I was confused.
So just to be clear, what are we voting on?
So now the amended amendments are no more than prior to 1 member of the school committee, and the 2
That would be the first vote. Vote that first.
Do it
and then-
separately, okay? Then
Correct.
we'll do that
Two
separately.
separate motions.
2 separate motions. So that was the first and second. Any further discussion on the motion that I made regarding the words "no more than"?
Can I ask for
Seeing-
roll call?
Seeing none, you would prefer a roll call vote?
Yes, please.
All right, could I have a roll call vote then?
Mr. McKinnon?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Ellenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Dr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Lindy?
No.
Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Ms. Striggles? And Ms. McGrath?
Yes.
8 in favor, 1 against, motion passes.
Thank you. Now, going back to the original edits that were made by the Rules and Procedures, we had a motion, a second. Any further discussion on those amendments? Seeing none, I'll ask for just a voice vote. A voice vote.
I would like to have a roll call vote on the
All right,
main motion.
can I have a roll call vote on those, please?
Ms. McGrath?
We're just voting on the initial 2 amendments that Rules and Procedures brought forth.
Same time, just one vote.
They're both together at one vote, correct. Roll call vote, please.
Pardon me, clarification, you said they're together, the ordinance and the order?
The 2 amendments that were brought forth by Rules and Procedures, that's what we're voting on now. And we're doing it by roll call vote.
I understand, but we're doing them together versus separately?
They were brought forward together as...
Oh.
They were brought forth together as recommendations by Rules and Procedures. Can I get a roll call vote on that, please?
Ms. McGrath?
Yes.
Ms. Strigels? Yes. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Lindy?
No.
Dr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ellenberg?
No.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
And Mr. McKinnon?
Yes.
7 in favor, 2 opposed, motion passes.
Thank you. So now to the order itself as amended. We had a motion and second for discussion. Any further comments? Mr. McKinnon?
I just would like to keep this at the council level. Did we make that in the motion?
I believe this is, actually, no, this is legislation for action. We're voting on approval of this tonight. We've already had this in front of us once. This is the second time.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, and, Ms. Ellenberg.
Forgive me, but you say this is the second reading.
Yes, the last reading was referred to Rules and Procedures.
Yes. I thought Rules and Procedures had to have 2 readings, second one after amendments have been made at the council level.
No, they do not.
I'll check that. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so we had a motion and a second. I'll ask for a roll call vote on this.
Mr. McKinnon?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Ellenberg?
No.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Dr. Perry?
Yes?
Mr. Lindy?
No.
Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Ms. Strigels? Yes. And Ms. McGrath?
Yes.
7 in favor, 2 opposed, motion passes.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the proposed ordinance, DFY 25-005, ordinance establishing the process for hiring a town manager. Again, I'll refer back to Mr. Chase from Rules and Procedures to go over changes that were made at his meeting.
Thank you, Mr. President. A simple amendment was made in the committee last evening with respect to this proposed ordinance. And to give you the preliminaries, the ordinance as first considered by the Rules and Procedures Committee last night provided that background checks and reference checks shall be conducted by the preliminary screening ad hoc committee for all finalists. And the amendment was introduced by Councilor Murphy, which the committee discussed and voted on and unanimously adopted this amendment. It reads, "The preliminary screening ad hoc committee will ensure that the proper background checks have been completed for all finalists."
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chase. That was the only amendment made to the entire
Actually,
ordinance.
That's correct.
Mr. Chase, there was one additional amendment made. Sorry, it was not listed here. And you asked me to double check that, so that's my fault. But in the same section 5 of the original ordinance, number 1, it also states that the committee will select at least 3, but no more than 5 finalists to be presented to the full council. I asked that it be in line with the previous order that was brought forth to you and just be clarified to say, striking the at least 3 and just have no more than 5 finalists to be presented. And the same reasonings that Mr. Chase described in the last order, I just didn't want to put a minimum required number that we bring before the committee should there not be 3 qualified candidates. But I wanted to allow for up to 5.
Sure. And that also was reviewed by Rules and
That's
Procedures.
correct.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification.
Is that
Councilor.
part of Mr. Chase's motion to amend?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yep, that just wasn't included on
Is
the
it
paperwork. that I
written
submitted.
in if you say it's not there, or what?
It's written in.
You have a copy on your desk.
Can I ask a point of information?
Hold on a sec. Go ahead, Mr. Lindy.
Through you to Counselor Chase.
here's the thing.
Checks have been completed for all finalists. I couldn't comment further because I was a citizen at that meeting, so who's going to do that?
Let me ask if Councilor Murphy, do you have a comment?
Yeah, Council Lindy, my idea for that would be that either the hired search firm would help assist in that, or a member of the town working with that ad hoc committee. I just didn't feel like should be the sole responsibility for individual counselors to be conducting background checks on their own.
I understand that, but who on behalf of the town?
Well, I just didn't think we need to get as specific in there.
I kind of
didn't wanna
do.
get as
I kind of do think we need to be specific. Would
Yep.
it be the HR department? I mean, somebody has to be charged with that
The ad hoc,
responsibility.
I was just going to say, I would suggest if he wants to make a motion or an amendment to that.
well, I'll just speak to that. I believe that the point that he's trying to get is the ad hoc most likely will be moving forward with an outside firm to do that, and the firm will typically do the outside checks.
So then I will suggest an amendment that the preliminary screening ad hoc committee will ensure that the proper background checks have been completed by the search firm for all finalists.
Just to clarify that, the ad hoc committee would make that determination of the direction that they're going with, and as far as the search itself, whether they would do it themselves or use an outside firm. So that determination hasn't been made yet.
I
So we're
would
not
like
picking
to
an
second
outside
his
firm?
motion.
The ad hoc committee is in charge of deciding that situation.
Really, we were told all along that we were going to look at an outside firm.
Well, that's the direction that they're going in, yes, but probably, but I'm just saying that's up to the ad hoc committee that's part of their purview.
Council Lady,
Comment?
just to clarify, to go on that, my order itself just establishes a process. So in this process, it doesn't say that all future committees will have to select a search firm. So that language isn't in there, and I'm just planning for all searches going forward. I'm not saying we should require having a search firm in here.
I don't think we should ever consider doing anything without a search firm. Sorry.
Ms. Ellenberg, got a question?
Yes, I would like to second Mr. Lindy's motion that the background checks be done by the search firm. I would like to second that motion.
I understand, but again, if you put it into the ordinance, again, and I agree, Mr. Lindy, that the better direction is to go with the search firm, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the direction that is being taken. Not saying that that's not the direction that's going to be taken, but it's leaving it more open-ended for the future ad hocs that are in place to determine what direction they want to go with. Maybe there's a change down the line where the searching for candidates for a new town manager may change. Right now, I agree, and that's been the recommendation that I've seen right along as well. I'm not saying that's not the direction to go, but I'm saying he's just keeping the language a little bit more open for flexibility. But if you want to make a motion.
I
for
made
that
the
language-
motion.
Okay.
And I have seconded it.
Okay, further discussion by any of the other
I'm
councilors?
sorry, what's the motion? And it looked like Councilor Murphy also has been trying to interject a comment.
Preliminary screening ad hoc committee will ensure that the proper background checks have been completed by the search firm for all finalists.
Second.
That's the motion
That's the motion.
versus, okay.
And then, Mr. Murphy, you had your hand
I was
up.
just going to make one more comment. I would just caution us getting really specific on this,
Yeah.
because I think when we appointed Ms. Robinson in her role, we did so without a search firm because it wasn't specified in an order. So in cases like that, I would say we didn't need a search firm to appoint a temporary or interim town manager. But if we add this in here, I believe we would have to go through a search firm every single time, which would
Define an interim.
essentially really draw out a long process for even naming an interim town manager.
This is for a
But
town
the-
manager. It doesn't say anything about interim.
Well, I think, and
Doesn't.
correct me if I'm wrong, maybe we could refer to the attorney for this, but it's for any vacancy of the town manager role.
We don't hire the assistant town manager. It
I'm not, just the town
We
manager.
appoint an interim if we don't have a
doesn't,
permanent.
this says for hiring a town manager. It doesn't say the word interim in there.
And this is temporary committee.
Yeah.
Sorry, my microphone's not on. Section 1 purpose, I think what you all
Yeah,
are
it does say that
proposing,
in
it says
Section
the
1.
purpose of this ordinance is to establish a formal process for the recruitment, selection, and hiring of both an acting, where necessary, and/or permanent town manager.
All right. Any further discussion by any council members?
I just wanted to say that what Mr. Rollins just read was for the interim, if necessary. So I would say Mr. Lindy's language is for permanent town manager positions, and I think that standard should be met for a permanent town manager
I understand,
status.
but the language of the ordinance is addressing both an acting and/or a permanent. So
If
we're trying to
necessary.
use this as a process to do both going forward.
Yes, it is a process for both, but the second one, interim, is limited by,
This-
if necessary.
But this is the concern by putting this search firm language in the language as being promoted, because again, that would make the town now have to
Have to
use a
meet-
search firm to find just an interim town manager and belabor the process going forward.
No, only if necessary. But however, okay, we should aspire to the standards of professionalism. And I think since this is a temporary thing, we're talking about the permanent situation, and let us aspire to good standards of selection.
Thank you, Ms. Ellenberg. Did you have another comment, Paul? Okay. Ms. McGrath?
I just would just ask one question for you, Council Murphy. Once the initial screening's done and the town council is going to see the candidates, will the council be able to see the resumes and qualifications of each individual?
When I present when the committee presents the 5?
Yes, all the information regarding all the candidates will be
finalists.
brought
Public.
forward in front, yeah.
All the finalists will be able
That'll
to
be
see?
presented to all the town council,
Okay,
correct?
thank
yes.
you.
You bet. So then on the motion on hand with, by Mr. Lindy to the motions to add by the search firm under the line of the preliminary screening ad hoc committee will ensure that the proper background checks have be completed by the search firm for all the finalists. That is the motion on the table. I will ask for a voice, let's go start with a voice vote just to see if we can determine. Those in favor of Mr. Lindy's motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Nay.
Nay.
I believe the nays have it. Going back to the proposed amendments presented by the Rules of Procedures, with again the two being selecting no more than 5 finalists, and the final line of the preliminary screening ad hoc committee will ensure that proper background checks have been completed for all finalists. I had a motion and a second. Again, I'll ask for a voice vote. All those in favor of those amendments, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
No.
Okay, the ayes have it. So now I'm asking for a motion to send this ordinance now to advertising.
So
I have a
moved.
motion to send advertising.
Second.
Ms. Robinson, second by Mr. McKinnon. All those in favor of sending this ordinance to advertising, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
The ayes have it as well. We will send to advertising. All right, moving forward. We do not have any old business to address this evening, but we do have some new business to attend. Order OFY 25-010, granting of an easement, Mass Electric Company. I believe this is regarding I'll refer to the town manager to give us an update on this order, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. This order is to allow for a permanent easement in the right-of-way to locate the utilities that we need for National Grid to serve electricity to the new fire station.
Very good.
Very important.
Very important, yes. We are looking to keep this at a council level, so we don't need to refer it. So I have a motion to keep this at a council level,
So
please.
moved.
Second.
Mr. Lindy, second by Mr. McKinnon. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll bring this up at our next meeting. Order OFY 25-011, granting of an easement, Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Again, I'll refer to the town manager for an update.
Councilor Chase.
I think this is the
Oh, I'm sorry.
order.
Let me see. I'm just looking for that particular, I'm sorry. Yeah, it is Councilor Chase, I'm sorry. Councilor
Thank
Chase, if
you,
you'd like to make an update on that.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'd earlier heard some remarks by town resident Kitty Doherty, who I think we're all familiar with. I've provided to the council members this evening just a brochure that provides some basic information about the nature of the old State Farm Trail. Certainly, Ms. Doherty's remarks were really much more informative because she pointed out that for some 14 years, this has been a matter that's been certainly that many people in town have been striving to achieve, and somewhat surprisingly, several years ago, it became feasible since, by virtue of the town's sponsorship, or hosting, I should say, of the fire services facility, the Commonwealth did give us the opportunity to create an easement to create the old State Farm Trail. And certainly the work that Kitty Doherty and a good many others working with her and the Natural Resources Trust of Bridgewater have done has moved this, as best I can say in terms of government action, it's moved fairly swiftly, but we know that's not in fact really swift. But nonetheless, it's gotten us to the point where we now see the opportunity for actual work to begin on the trail. And so accordingly, I would urge the council to approve this grant of an easement, accept this grant of an easement from the Commonwealth, and I certainly thank Kitty Doherty and everyone else involved. I had an opportunity several years ago to walk that trail and with Kitty Doherty, with many others, and I think it's actually going to represent a very important addition to Bridgewater's use of open space for passive recreation, and I would urge the council to approve this.
Yes, and we're going to keep this at a council level as well. We don't need to refer it. So, again, to read, this is a conservation easement allowing the work to begin to take place on the old State Farm Trail. So do I have a motion to keep it at a council level?
Second.
Ms. Strigels, second by Mr. McKinnon. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We will bring this up in our next meeting. And thank you, Kitty. All right, next. Paper. Okay. The next one, order OFY 25-012, contract for the acting town manager. Obviously, this was introduced by myself. We have reviewed the potential contract for the acting town manager, and it was approved in executive session. So this is the first reading publicly for the contract. Again, keeping at the council level, I'll ask for a motion to keep it at the council level and bring it up at our next meeting.
So moved.
By Mr. Lindy, second by Ms. Strigels. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None, thank you. We'll bring this up at our next meeting. All right. Next, we have order OFY 25-013, transfer order, salary to expense. I will refer to Town Manager Blythe Robinson for some background on this, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. To fund both the actions to have professional services for the acting town manager going forward, and to fund the contract for animal control services the town entered into earlier this year. We need to make transfers from salary accounts into the expense accounts. So that's why these orders are in front of you.
Thank you very much. I'll ask for a motion to move to Budget and Finance Committees.
So move. Second.
Second.
So primary by Mr. Lindy, second by Mr. McKinnon. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say, oh, Ms. McGrath?
Thank you, Mr. President, through you to the town manager. So this is an outside animal control contract, or
Yes, it is.
do we have anybody?
Precision Wildlife Services, I think is their name.
Okay, no one's qualified as employee here?
I think a decision was made at some point in the recent past that the town would be better served by having a contracted service than a employee. I think there were some challenges when coverage of that, since it's basically a 24/7 service that we need to offer, and so a decision was taken to change to a company.
Okay, and one other question. So if to be covered, say like at 11 o'clock at night, if somebody had an animal, would they call this company? Would they be transferred to this company? Because I know I had a resident that said they called the animal with with a problem, but no one answered.
Whether they call or they use the email information that's on the website, they would be directed to this company.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I had a first and a second. All those in favor of moving to Budget and Finance Committees, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Thank you. Next up, Order OFY 25-014, contractual payments. Again, I refer to Town Manager for update on this, please.
I'd actually like to ask Mr. President if I can defer this to the next meeting in terms of getting you the details. I needed to confer with the Finance Director.
Okay, sure. We'll move this particular order to our next meeting's new business.
Do we need to vote on that as well, or no?
No, we do
Okay.
not.
Are you postponing it, or are you just keeping it at council level?
We're just postponing, well,
Yeah,
again.
so you do need to vote to postpone it.
I'm sorry, my apologies.
Yeah, I think Ms. Robinson was just saying she couldn't fill in information at first reading. I don't think she's saying don't do first reading.
Please.
I'm sorry, so I can still vote to send to Budget and Finance. She's prepared to do so.
If you want to keep the thing moving along,
okay,
I think
I'm
you
sorry,
should, yeah.
I misunderstood what you said.
Her only role in that is just to give you all information. I think, don't correct me if I'm wrong, I think she was deferring to say, when it comes up for vote, she'll have more information from the finance director for you.
Again, well, just as generally to the council members again, this is moving, again, funds from employee liability fund to different salary accounts for police, fire, and general government. But again, she'll provide more details.
I believe it's to fund contractual obligations, whether it be for retirement payouts for.
Right, and we've run into this before, so it's pretty standard.
But I just wanted to triple check.
But as far as, just specific information, we can get that next time. So do I have a motion then to send to Budget and Finance Committee?
So move.
Mr. Lindy?
Second.
Second by Ms. Robinson. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. We'll move to Budget and Finance Committees. Sorry for the confusion there. All right, next item up. We have a transfer order OFY 25-015, transfer order public education government for town council chambers. Again, I'll refer to the town manager for information on this.
So these were to fund some changes and upgrades to equipment to enable us to better stream meetings. We've had issues with that in the past on upgrade equipment that the IT department needed to purchase.
Fantastic. Do I have a motion to move the Budget and Finance Committee?
So move.
Mr. Lindy, second. Ms. Striggles. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Let's see. Next, we have Order O-FY 25-016, acceptance of a gift from Bridgewater State University. Again, Ms. Robinson, for any description?
My understanding, this is an annual gift from BSU, and the money is split equally between, as the note says on your order, between police, fire, and highway services for that.
Yep, thank you. That's typical we receive each year from BSU. Do I have a motion to send to Budget and Finance Committee?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Lindy, second by Ms. Robinson. Any questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved.
Mr. President, I have a question to the town manager on this topic.
Oh.
In terms of gifts from Bridgewater State University, do we get payments in lieu of taxes from the university like we used to? And do we have any chance of increasing that for some of these developments that will be happening to town?
Through you, Mr. President, I think I need to do a little more research on that. I'm
She's probably not overly
but
privy, Ms. Ellenberg, but this is a common gift that the BSU gives each year.
Yes.
Ms. Robinson, question?
So I literally asked this question the first time I became a counselor as well, and unfortunately, we can't really ask for more. It was what I was told. I think it's a discretionary gift that the
BSU
university
gives.
gives us. Yeah, but you're right on time. Like I said, I asked the same thing.
Thank you. And of course, we taxpayers put into those funds that the state gives us. So of course we can ask.
All right, moving on to zoning ordinance D FY 25.
Do we need to refer that?
I'm sorry, did I not? I'm
referred
sorry,
it.
I thought sorry, did I not go through the motion on that?
Refer?
No, you voted.
Did I vote on that?
Just checking.
Oh, yeah, I thought I did already. Okay.
Getting long.
All right, so zoning ordinance D FY 25-003, proposed amendment to the Central Business District, CBD-S density bonuses 9.6.7. This was brought forth by Council McGrath. Mr. McGrath, would you like to elaborate on what you have here?
Yes, I'd like to bring the bonus density that is presently at 26 units down to 22.
Is that the only changes that you're making in that section?
Yes.
Second.
This is looking to be referred to the Planning Board and Community and Economic Development. Do I have a motion to send to those committees?
Can we have a discussion to explain why?
Well, we need to get a motion in a second, and then for discussion, if you'd like to go ahead and do that. So, do I have a motion to send to those committees, Ms. Robinson?
Motion for,
Second for discussion from Mr. McKinnon. Okay, go ahead, Mr. McGrath.
So the reason I want to lower the density rate is based on the MBTA final revised Section 3A, where it states, but compliance with Section 3A does not require town or cities to install new water or wastewater infrastructure to add to the capacity of existing infrastructure to accommodate future multifamily housing. Where public systems currently exist, but capacity is limited, private developers may be able to support the cost of necessary water and sewer extensions, while the zoning must be allowed for gross average density of at least 15 units per acre. There may be other legal or practical limitations, including the lack of infrastructure or infrastructure capacity. So the burden does not fall on us, the town. Density should fall out of the responsible design and the constraints which we have with water and waterways. So I believe we need to do a due diligence before moving forward. So I'm passing out a paper that has the law, and there's a webinar on the bottom. So I'd like to encourage my fellow councils to watch this, as I am inclined to suggest that we hire Mr. Panzella, who is on the webinar, as a consultant for the councils before making any more decisions in development. He is a consultant for the MBTA and Massachusetts Housing. So it's very educational before we move forward on spending a lot of money on infrastructure that we don't have to for more housing.
All right. Well, again, so I would appreciate you forwarding that information. Is that copy's coming around? Okay.
Also information about the mixed density bonus, the mixed housing. the retail, because my proposal is postponed, so I had put it with that. So there's also, you can look at that. And that's the final revised from the MBTA restrictions.
Okay. So I would, again, I would probably ask to make sure that certainly our Community Economic Development Subcommittee, again, as all councilors are getting it, I imagine passing on this information to the planning board as well. And then they'll review it and bring it back to us, and we'll see where it goes. So any other further questions, discussion? Ms. Robinson?
Thank you for putting this forward. I was curious where you got the calculation down to 22, or how you formulated that.
I just thought, when I've watched them, the planning for the yellow house, that lot, I don't know if it's 63 or 93 Main Street, it was so much for the 26 that the planning committee actually told them to bring it down to 23. So I figured down to 22, because we only have to give them 15, so at least we're giving them a little bit of a density bonus. The
Okay.
26 did not fit on that lot of land.
And I'm curious, did you discuss or ask, around this topic with the
Mr. Rulli?
Mr. Rulli, the CED department at all?
No, I actually thought he would be here, but I figured he's well aware of the water and the water infrastructure, where we're
Yeah.
talking about it, the revised, that we don't have to support it. Developers, the consultant, he suggests that if a developer wants 20% of our water, then he should give 20% of whatever we're going to do with extensions or new. So the developers are supposed to help us, and we don't have to have a burden of having that requires all this building because of our capacity. So this is what the MBTA is telling towns, and this is what the webinar is about. So if you watch it, I mean, he speaks in much more deeper details and tells towns not to jump forward and do this unless, because you don't have to add the water for it to build up. The MBTA does not require you to do that.
That is true. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Grath. Any other questions from any councilors? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of sending to the Planning Board and Community and Economic Development, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. So item I, Ms. McGrath is not ready to be brought forth yet. I was made aware of. You're the next zoning
That
ordinance
one's
that you were
been
proposing.
postponed.
That was pulled.
Yeah, there was a section missing.
Okay, thank you very much. I just wanted to confirm. All right, so we are going past I, moving to J, proposed ordinance D FY 25-006, Bridgewater Town Charter Amendment for gender neutral language, brought forth by Councilor Murphy. Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, this supports the Town Charter Committee review, who suggested this when they brought forth suggested changes to the charter. So it's just a long overdue change to the current charter of changing any references to his to they to be gender neutral in our town charter.
All right, I will ask for a motion to send to Rules and Procedures.
Second.
Second for discussion. Any discussion on the matter? Ms. Robinson?
I'd just like to say I fully support this, and I appreciate you bringing it forward.
Excellent. So seeing nothing else, all those in favor of sending to Rules and Procedures, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. That wraps up our business for this evening.
No citizen comments.
Oh, I know, I'm just saying that's just a business.
Okay, sorry.
So moving next to citizens' comments. So if any citizens would like to come forward again, please do. The Massachusetts Open Meeting Law requirements. Discussions will not take place during the public comment period. If appropriate, responses to questions and concerns will be given by the town manager at a future town council meeting. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes. Thank you so much.
Sir, how you doing? Good evening, everybody. My name is Josh Randall, 1 Clara Ray Drive, Bridgewater. I've been here for almost 40 years. Prior chairman of the Veterans Council in town. This past Flag Day, very disheartened to see the rainbow flag in replace of the POW flag. It's very disrespectful to all veterans of this community. I know I share a lot of different, I've had a lot of people come up to me about it, and it's actually very disrespectful. And I actually don't want to see it again, because there's multiple laws specifically Public Law 11667, National POW-MIA Flag Act, which was passed in the Senate. And I hope this body would move forward with some type of legislation to make sure that flag stays on that pole, because it's disrespectful. We had a citizen of this community die overseas. His body got brought back here. Kevin Preach. You have a bridge named after him. And you want to put look, I treat everybody fair and equal. I have friends in that category. But that flag does not belong anywhere out front of this building. At all, period. I really don't want to see it again. It's disrespectful. It was on Flag Day. The POW flag was supposed to be flying. Absolutely disrespectful to the men and women who serve this country. And it should be back up, and it's not. Should be ashamed of themselves. This town's starting to go down bad. And secondly, the town clerk, I know she's an elected official, but the last polls was a disgrace. She was disrespectful to the people who work at the polls. My mother being one, she almost has 50 years as a warden in the polls in this town. And that town clerk went up to everybody and said, "You're not allowed to eat in here. No more eating. Take your candy or whatever you have and put it down." Well, as a firefighter, I know some people are diabetic and need to keep the sugar up. And they don't get breaks like people should be getting breaks because you can't find anyone to work. So she's in there being disrespectful to everybody. And then what I can't deal with is that she's telling my mother and everybody else in there, and I've heard it from multiple sources that work there, that they cannot put a political flag up on their own property. And the judge, a judge in this Commonwealth has already ruled on it. It's a First Amendment right. So anyone working at the polls has every right to put up any sign they want. And she's telling them she's going to get this town in some serious trouble. And she better knock it off, too, because she's running rogue. And I'm just letting you know, this is the stuff that's been happening around town. But as for my mother, she's putting up a sign. And if the town clerk wants to make a big deal out of it, well, I can recall her. 1,800 votes. I'll just get rid of her. So that's all I have. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Randall.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to come up?
Hi, Janet Hanson, Pleasant Street. Just a couple of things. As far as the density bonus, I still don't get that, why we even have to have bonuses for people. This is the CBDS, which is the Central Square going down to Main Street. That's up there, not the CDR down further. And I think this is way too much. It opens the door for things to happen in the center of town. I know it goes through the planning board, but there's loopholes here. I think 22 is way too high as it is. 18, I question that too, but I would like to see it in lower. So that's my comment on that. And the charter change on the ordinance proposed by Mr. Paul Murphy, my understanding, all these changes will go to the town charter that we have, and eventually it will, if it's approved here with town council, eventually will go to the state, and then it comes back to the voters. Am I correct on that? Can you at least nod your head that that's correct, that these will go to the charter, and then eventually the town will be voting? Okay. And the only other thing, which it's kind of a moot point, I am disappointed that it wasn't brought up on the 5 members of the ad hoc. I and a lot of other people wanted to see it more than 5, but it's stuck at 5. 7 would have been better, and the perfect example you were discussing about if somebody from the school committee can't commit, then it leaves you 4. So if you had 7, you're better off chance of having the number of people you need. You keep talking about maybe the school committee is not going to be able to commit. So that is a perfect example why it should have been more than 5. And that should have been brought up. So I am disappointed on that, but it sounds like that's a done deal. So I just wanted to make that comment. As I say, I'm not the only one who wanted, more. A lot of people wanted 9, but I think 7 would have been a more rounded, odd number. And I don't know if that can be changed, but planning board, I guess I'll be speaking to the planning board about the densities, and I think that's all I had right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. All right. Thank you for those citizens that came up and spoke. We will now move on to council comments. I'll start with Mr. McKinnon to my right.
Nothing serious, just with the debate tonight and all that, I just ask anyone that's watching or that's here to remember what it was like on 9/12/2001 when the country was one instead of divided, because it's a little crazy out there in this world. And I mean, I was 7 or 8 years old, so I don't remember it that well, but I do remember watching Patriots and Jets fans all holding American flags, showing that we're all one, and we are the United States of America, no matter what happens in November. That's all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKinnon. Ms. Robinson.
I only laughed because I was like, you were a baby. Right. That is so lovely to say, though, because that was a tremendous day for those of us who do remember about how unified the country was on the 12th. What do I have to say? Probably not too much. The usual thank you to folks who continue to show up, I know that, and this is probably just for the benefit of anybody who does watch later for any kind of recording. I still want to echo the sentiment of I personally, and I don't want to speak for my colleagues, but I really do believe that there is a consistent spirit here of we do want community input. So however the design of this actual ad hoc search committee shakes out, it does not preclude, exclude, whatever you want to talk about in terms of it's so vital to get community input. So I will be a big advocate for that through multiple points throughout the process. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Ms. Ellenberg.
I would like to echo Mr. McKinnon. We are all Americans first, before party. We will be watching a debate tonight, and I ask that all counselors listen to constituents, respond, and keep them in mind. Secondly, I'd like to compliment Councillor McGrath, and that has to do with your amendment for reducing the zoning density, which I think is where the people of this town want. So that was very good of you to bring that. Thank you. My compliments. That's all for me.
Thank you, Ms. Ellenberg. Mr. Murphy.
Nothing tonight, Mr. President. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Murphy. Mr. Lindy.
So 2 things. Tomorrow being 9/11, which I remember because I wasn't that young. I remember exactly where I was that day. I was working my cable job in Brockton, and the mayor's office called me and said the TV's not working. And I got there just in time to turn the TV from video to TV so it would work. And I saw the second plane hit. So it's a really solemn day. There's a ceremony at 8:45 in East Bridgewater. There's a ceremony at 8:30 in Brockton. We don't have a ceremony. This is the 23rd year. My goal is by the 25th year, hopefully this town will have a ceremony. Maybe we didn't have anyone in this town that passed away on 9/11, but we probably all were connected to someone. For me, it's also the 7th anniversary of my dad's passing, so it's going to be a tough day. I got to teach my classes tomorrow, but my mind's going to be on that. The election with the debate tonight, I assigned all my students to watch it, so I have to watch it so I know what they're going to say. They're going to analyze it. The other thing is we always promote good causes here. Tomorrow night over at, I'm not promoting the restaurant, at Crispy's, there's a Walk to End Alzheimer's fundraiser, September 11th from 5 to 8, that raises money for the people that walk in that walk. Leslie Barboza, who's a community volunteer, asked me if I would bring this up at the meeting and just let people know. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lindy. Mr. Chase.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to thank, in particular, Councilor Lindy for your comments that I think were very appropriate and very mindful with respect to the commemoration of 9/11. And I think that for those of us who do have a vivid recollection of the events of that day, they certainly are seared in our memories. And I agree that I would hope that at a future point we may be able to offer our own form of commemoration right here in the town. So I thank you for that. I thought that was a very good comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Ms. Driggles.
Thank you, Mr. President. I said it privately, but I just want to congratulate Councilor Ellenberg and her daughter for the wedding that they had this weekend. And you're very welcome. The pictures looked beautiful. And I'd also like to commend Councilor McGrath on your efforts. Legislation during this time has been rather difficult, but you've taken it in stride. And I just wanted to say, I can't speak for everybody here, but I'm proud to sit next to you. So thank you for that.
Very good, Ms. Driggles. Ms. McGrath.
I want to thank the Osamequin, if I spoke that sentence.
Well, Osamequin is the Native
Club.
American
It's
way,
a women's
or
group.
Osamequin.
It's a women's group, and they invited me to high tea. It's a club that's been running since 1898. The women support many charities annually and annually give 3 scholarships to high school graduates. I had a lot of fun, and Miss Ellenberg is a member
of the club,
that,
yes.
so I got to see her too.
We try to do good charity.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McGrath. I always thought it was Osamequin.
Osamequin, and then we had a speaker come and tell us the Native American name of Chief Massasoit was Osamequin. Osamequin being the first name, Massasoit being his last name.
Can I just add to that? I found out all these years that I've been teaching, 31 years at Massa, Sewit, S-E-W-I-T. When someone spelled it out for me, then I figured out how to pronounce it properly. It's the Native American pronunciation is Massa
You learn
Sewit.
something new every day.
Massasoit.
Sewit. All right.
Okay.
Again, lending to Mr. Lindy's comments, I would definitely like to see the town do something for 9/11, definitely by hopefully the 25-year anniversary. I know I was a month away from having my first child when 9/11 hit, so I remember it quite vividly. And my thoughts and prayers go out to everyone out there who was affected in any way by 9/11. Hard to believe it's been 23 years already. As my oldest child reminds me, at his age is being almost 23 now. I do want to just thank the committee as a whole for all the discussion that we went through tonight and the amendments that were made. But I think we're taking some positive steps forward as a council with having an ad hoc in place. Again, suggested the 5 more so for just the ability to work as streamlined as possible to move forward in finding a candidate that we can bring forward in front of this entire council, using the public and getting their feedback. We will definitely be doing that in multiple ways. I don't want the public to think that we're bypassing them at all. This is going to be as transparent a process as possible, but hopefully an efficient one at that. So I think the 5-member ad hoc is going to allow that to happen. MMA itself recommends ad hocs of 5 to 7. I also think that by moving forward on the ordinance, we are laying the groundwork that not only this council but future councils can follow to go ahead and either put in place an acting town manager or hire a new one. So I do want to thank Council Murphy for his efforts on putting a lot of that language together, all of that language together. And hopefully, again, this allows us to move forward as a council in this process of finding a new permanent town manager, which can serve the needs and the wants of the town of Bridgewater. So with that, I have nothing further. We do not need executive session this evening, so I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are in adjournment. Thank you so much for coming.